This is PhillyDroneTech with Tom Brunt. Sponsorship provided by AWeber.com, GetFlywheel.com, and Wistia.com.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Philly Drone Tech here on the phillytech.org Netcast Network. I'm Tom Brunt. Well, I've got a lot of interesting news to talk about today. Basically, most of it concerning the FAA. But before I get into that and reveal what the big news is, I'll talk a little bit about what I've been up to lately. You might remember my last podcast. I mentioned that I have my beloved Humpty D Phantom 1 going under the knife to be completely upgraded. I mentioned that I put him in a new shell. I got a new updated controller board for him and added a telemetry display into my FPV monitor. And well, I'm happy to say that it went successful. And here he is. He's all back together. And once the weather finally improves, where it's above 0 here in the Philly region, I can take him out and test him and start getting back to work. I've got a number of projects that have been kind of handed to me, so I'm ready to get back to work with Humpty D. Speaking of him, because of what I'm about to talk about with the FAA, I had contact with my local newspaper, the Intelligencer, up in Bucks County. They came out to the house with a photographer and interviewed me about my thoughts with drone technology. So some good positive press that you'll be able to see. I'll leave a link up on how you can look at that article there. And I'll also post on my Twitter account at Drone Guy Tom. So I'm looking forward to that. So now let's get underway with the news. The FAA, seemingly out of nowhere, it was Sunday, February 15th. They finally did it. They released what's called an NPRM, Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. These are the rules, folks, that they're coming up with to allow for a commercial market. And from what I've read online, from those who've been following this, it's pretty good news. They may have gotten this one right. So anyway, it's a big read. It's well over 100 pages, but surprisingly in speak that us mere mortals can understand. It's not exceptionally legal speak, so to say. So I definitely recommend that you take a look at it and see what you think. One thing that they're allowing is they're asking for public comment. An NPRM basically is open for public comment for 60 days. So I am definitely putting all my thoughts together and sending in my public comment, which I'll talk about later. And you'll get to see what my public comments are. So anyway, let's talk about what the rules have to say. Well, gone is the full pilot's license. Thank God. That's gone. Gone is also the full medical certificate. What you will be getting is what's called an sUAS operator certificate. This is you will get this by passing a written test. What they're saying is that the test will have to do with testing you for basic aeronautical knowledge. They want to know that you understand the U.S. airspace. So that's what the test is, and what to do if they're going to give you probably scenarios. Think of it like a written driver's test. I'm pretty sure that's about what it'll be like. And it will only cost a couple $100s to get this license, not thousands or tens of thousands. So that's very good news. Let's see, you will also be retested every 2 years. They do that for pilots as well. So they want to make sure that you've retained the knowledge to fly your craft. So what are you allowed to do? Well, you will be able to fly line of sight only. But you can use an observer on the ground. You're not required to, but you can use an observer to look at the craft at all times. And you can place the observer where they can have a better view of it than you can. But they are still limiting it to, I think, well, they're not really limited. They're limiting it to a line of sight. So they're not really saying like how far that is, but with an unaided eye, that's about as far as you can fly. But you can use an observer, which can extend your distance a little bit. It's daytime only, no night flights. This is interesting though. The hobbyist rules had a maximum height of 400 feet. They're allowing 500 feet. 500 feet encompasses all of what's called Class G airspace. That is from 0 to 500 feet above the ground. And their reasoning for this is the fact that airplanes, except for their ascent and descent into an airport, cannot fly any lower than 500 feet. So the risk of hitting an aircraft is extremely low at 500 feet or less. So there we go there, 500 feet. This is an interesting one. They're allowing a maximum speed of 87 knots. Now, if you don't know how fast 87 knots is, it's pretty darn fast. It's 100 miles an hour. So I don't know of any craft we have currently that is going 100 miles an hour, line of sight too. That's a very quick flight. But anyway, they're opening up public comment on that, whether that's too fast, too slow. It's kind of negligible, I think, at least for a lot of applications. But it might be good for things in the future. But 100 miles an hour below 500 feet seems pretty fast. So we'll see what happens with that. Basically, avoid aircraft. If you come across that you're in the flight path of an aircraft, what they're basically saying is you get out of the way. They have a couple of rules that they're going to talk about to have, they want to make sure that you know how to basically mitigate damage and catastrophe. But they are acknowledging that the size and weight of these things are small in such that, a crash is not going to be like an airplane crash. So they've acknowledged that. Which is big news. It allows, this is going to allow a lot of commercial use to take off, pun intended. Other things you cannot do, you still cannot fly over people. However, they can be undercover or directly involved with the flight. I'm not sure if that means, like, say, an example, a movie set. Can you, if everybody in the scene is part of a movie set, is that okay to fly over them? If you're flying in a public area, it's up to you to alert people that you're doing so and ask if they're okay with that. So that's pretty good. Cannot drop any objects from the craft. So, any little stunts or gimmicky publicity stunts, nope, can't do those. A medical certificate, like what they required for the exemptions, is not required now. However, you will have to comply with the current drug and alcohol use as it pertains to all pilots. So no drunk droning. Now keep in mind, this is all for if you are doing this commercially. This doesn't really address a lot about hobbyist use. This is all about commercial. So which is pretty much what everybody was waiting for. I mean, the hobbyists can do what the hobbyists do now, but this will fully allow a marketplace to take off. I'm very impressed and kind of surprised that it turned out this way, because all indications were they were going to get very heavy-handed and hardly allow for anything to happen. So that's very good. They are also, one of the public comments that they're asking for help on is they're considering a separate license class for a micro UAS. That's a craft that's 4.4 pounds or less. This is close to 4.4 pounds. So would a Phantom be part of this? I don't know. But certainly a lot of the smaller crafts, they're making smaller crafts that can still fly a couple hundred feet and do some things. So they're considering a different class of rules to apply to those crafts. Since they are so small and so light, the risk of damage or injury is even lower still than the 55 or pounds less class that they're putting a small UAS in. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this here? What I mentioned before, they're asking for public comment, allowing, and they specifically ask, you can talk to them about anything, but they're specifically asking for input as far as allowing non-line of sight in certain situations, and allowing nighttime in certain situations. I'm planning on chiming in that yes, they should. Maybe not in every situation, maybe for doing like photography, no, but search and rescue. Limiting search and rescue to daytime and line of sight only is kind of defeating a lot of the potential of the search and rescue. Also, say using it for kind of like a reconnaissance over a large fire. If you can only fly line of sight at night, that's a little tough. Maybe what I'll suggest is that you can fly line of sight, but a lower height, not 500 feet, maybe 300 feet, which I think search and rescue isn't going to want to be really that high anyway. So that's one of the things they're asking about. And they're also asking about things like the speed limit and if that is, if that's okay. Again, that's kind of negligible. Some of the people that aren't happy about this is going to be Amazon and UPS, because this does not allow for any autonomous operation. Everything must be operated by a person and line of sight. So Amazon is not very happy, but however, part of the public comment is also, should they allow for that? Again, in certain situations, maybe they can, because the technology is moving so fast that the drones and UAS that we see now, within a year or two, are going to be so much different. This is going to be archaic in a very short time, because there are, and I've mentioned before on previous shows, there's technology to make them self-aware. Basically aware of their surroundings, able to avoid obstacles, avoid people, and do self-evasive maneuvers. That could allow for some autonomous operation. But we'll see. Public comment is open until April 25th of this year. So again, I'll put all the links up there on my Medium account for you to go read this, and I definitely suggest that if you feel strongly about a commercial market, make your comments known, make the thoughts known, and hopefully they'll take maybe they'll take some to heart if they get enough people thinking the same way. But anyway, it's surprisingly good news, and it could still take like a year or so before we actually see this implemented as the law. But the fact that they've got the rules ready, laid out, very good for them. I'm finally have something nice to say about the FAA. It was very disappointing for a while and discouraging the way they were being so heavy-handed. But I'm really impressed at what they've come up with. This is a very good starting point for commercial use of UAS. So, yeah, that's the big news to talk about in this episode. But I do have some more things to talk about, so I'm going to take a quick sponsor break, and I'll see you in just a minute. Today's show is sponsored by Wistia. Wistia is a video hosting and analytics platform that helps businesses get the most out of online video. We use Wistia here at PhillyTech.org. Flywheel, a managed WordPress hosting platform built specifically for designers and creative agencies, and helps thousands of designers across the world launch projects every day. AWeber is local to the Philly region, helping entrepreneurs, agencies, and small businesses connect with their customers through email marketing. Go to aweber.com/PhillyTech to find out more. And by Soho Mail, professional, low-cost email with business-class features and security. Okay, welcome back. Well, I talked about in my last episode that I was going to have a little bit of a discussion on what's known as geofencing. Geofencing is basically defined as, well, look at it this way. A lot of the, especially like the DJI products, use GPS. So because they use GPS, they can actually be programmed with coordinates that will not allow it to fly in those locations. So geofencing is the act of making a location from the GPS coordinates that will not allow the drone to enter over that space. There is a company out there that started called noflyzone.org. And what they will do is for free, you can register your property. You just put in your street address and they do the rest. They find out the GPS coordinates for it. And they say they have a number of drone manufacturers on board. They haven't really said who they are. But what they will do is that they will send, basically it's a list of coordinates of where you're not allowed to fly your product. So you would get like firmware updates to your product, and once you apply those updates, if you say your neighbor has registered their house at noflyzone.org, your drone will not fly over it. It will just simply stop where it is in the air. That's an interesting concept, and it's somebody that's, I give them credit for coming up with an idea to kind of combat what is, a lot of people, especially those that are unfamiliar with the technology, have a lot of privacy concerns. They see drones as spies. So this will allow them to register their home for that. Whether it's actually going to work, I do not know, because it is fairly easy to avoid. You just simply don't have any firmware updates on your craft. Will hobbyists, would stop hobbyists? I'm not sure, because they're not going to be probably updating firmware as much anyway. Commercial use, yes, because we will keep our stuff up to date, and as the technology progresses, it'll be a way to kind of like almost have automatic like no-fly zones, like say for airports. I believe DJI does this now. If you were to go, and sit at the base of an airport and try to take your Phantom off, it'll just sit there. As you remember, they tried doing this for all of Washington, D.C., but had to roll back the update due to technical problems. But it is certainly possible. So one of the this site is trying to kind of future-proof themselves. One of the things they will offer in the future is that once you register your property, you can have settings. And say, as the technology advances, let's say we do have delivery drones. Well, you could go into your settings and you can say, I'll allow Amazon drones on my property. I'll allow this on my property. I'll allow the fire companies search and rescue over my property. But I won't allow, this drone, that drone, hobbyist drones, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes down the pike as the technology advances, and see how popular this site ends up being. So that's basically all I have for you. It was a lot to bring in just with the new FAA rules. So again, I encourage you to definitely take a look at that. I will post, what I'm doing now is I have a medium.com account where I can post occasional thoughts and ramblings and things of that nature. And what I've been using it for is I post the links of everything I talk about on here. So if you're interested in about the FAA guidelines, you can go to, here's the site on the screen here, medium.com/@DroneGuyTom. And you can find direct links to everything I talk about in the podcast. And once I do put my public comments in place on, about to the FAA, I will be posting those as well on the Medium site for you to kind of look at. And so yeah, I hope you get to see that. And also, if you do like this show and you've seen this and other shows on the PhillyTech.org Netcast Network, we encourage you to become a financial supporter. You can go to Patreon. And anything that you feel appropriate to contribute would be great for helping to keep this network up and running, pay the server expenses and distribution and so on and so forth. So I definitely appreciate that. Thank you. And as always, if you want to get in touch with me, you've seen my Twitter handle there at DroneGuyTom at the bottom of the screen the whole time. Or you can also send me email at droneguy@tebweb.com. That's TEBWEB.com. And I look forward to any of your comments and suggestions. And as I get them, I'll read them on the podcasts. So anyway, that's all I have for this time, and hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.